The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
As Obi-Wan Kenobi once said, hello there, and welcome to Force Center presents Databank Dive. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and this is our show where, hey, like the title says, we dive into the databank and then also Wookieepedia to just really study a specific Star Wars character, location, vehicle, tech. Basically, if it's a noun, it is up for grabs, and then we talk about how wild is it? How weird is it? How wondrous is it? If you're enjoying this show, we did do a first season of it on the great sci-fi app, The Companion. If you want to check that out, you can go search for The Companion and find it there. But we are happy to be up to episode 26, sharing our love of all of these things in Star Wars.
It's been a lot of fun having these discussions. We have a great one today because we are in Mando season. We're still in Bad Batch season, by the way. But we have the trailer that came out this week. And we are looking forward to Mando Season 3. And that got me thinking, Joseph, about one of my favorite things of Mando Season 1. And I hope maybe again future seasons of Mando. We will note we recorded this before the trailer dropped. So maybe the answer is in the trailer. Oh, we'll find out. But today we are going to be highlighting Blurrgs.
Yeah, Blurrgs.
Blurrgs, indeed. Here's what we do. We go into the StarWars.com databank. Then we'll take a peek at Wookieepedia if we need some more information. And sometimes the databank doesn't even have an entry for what we're talking about, but that's not the case here today. Blurrgs, according to the StarWars.com databank, are two-legged beasts of burden found on a number of worlds in the galaxy. Stoic and strong. They are used for everything from agricultural labor to war, foraging lazily in paddocks or carrying Twi'lek guerrillas and clone troopers into battle. Although they appear harmless and docile, their toothy mouths can betray a fierce demeanor. Females, as we learned in Mando Season 1, are known to devour the males of the species during mating season. That is a powerful paragraph, Joseph. There's a lot in there.
There's so much in there, and I love the way this is framed. I can't remember the exact line of dialogue, but this says females are known to devour the males of the species during mating season. Not even during mating or after mating. It implies that it could just be like, hey, it's, February on Ryloth. Watch out, dudes.
Watch out. Don't be careful if you swipe right. Yeah, that's wow. Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're going to go to Wookieepedia for a little bit of more information. Sometimes the entries are relatively the same, but there was some stuff I pulled here. The Blurrgs, were very versatile for various kinds of service, despite their poor intelligence. And in that, we're going to come back to that. Some Blurrgs could also have a hostile disposition when provoked. I mean, yeah. When one Twi'lek resistance member invited a clone to mount his Blurrg, the Blurrg roared and bucked as the clone unsuccessfully attempted to control it. Their viciousness when provoked made them useful in battle. Male Blurrgs were eaten by females after the mating process. I forgot to take that out, but it's more information on that there, because that one makes it is during the process.
Yeah, it is absolutely during the process. But I gotta think that male Blurrgs are a little bit like, hey, did you notice Kevin and Dave are both gone? What happened?
Pete had a date last night. He come back. No? Okay. So we're going to discuss, kind of dive into the Blurrgs of it all here. First, though, as always, Joseph, we begin with the description, and this we look to you first. How would you describe a Blurrg?
I couldn't contain myself. I kept thinking of different ways to describe a Blurrg. I think never has the name of an animal been more accurate in telling you what it looks like, right?
So true.
Both the name Blurrg and the creature Blurrg look like they used to be much longer, and then they just ran into something and compacted, right?
That's so accurate.
A couple other ways I thought to try to describe it is you look at the Blurrg and it's almost like, you bought some model for some exotic dinosaur-like creature and then you lost all the torso pieces, so you just kind of shoved it together and said, good enough. I don't know where the other pieces went. I don't know. They fell in the sewer. I don't know. There's also, we'll talk more about it. The Blurrg looks like almost looks like a cutified representation of another character. of like a larger animal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, the Blurrg almost looks like an angry emoji or like a Funko Pop of a real animal of like, these are not the accurate proportions, but this is a good representation. Like, I want to see if the Blurrg is the Funko Pop. What does the real animal look like?
That's amazing. All accurate there. Yeah, my mind went to similar spots. It's like a tadpole. Sprouted some legs. Stopped mid transformation to a frog there, right? And it's a tadpole with legs, sprouted teeth, and the soul of a chihuahua, just like run around, or maybe like a T-Rex that stopped evolving. It's like, I'm good right here. It is an angry mouth with legs.
Yeah. It is. It's just nothing but head, and the arms really look like an afterthought of like, do we still need these? Are they pretty close to falling off evolutionary wise?
Yeah. It's great. And then, generally speaking, we consider something cute, particularly in the animal kingdom there, if it's got like oversized baby-like features, right? Big eye, big mouth. There's something so not cute about the Blurrgs that just kind of make them endearing to me.
Yeah, you know what I think it is that adds the terror? Like, definitely the big teeth, but they also have a little bit of Kool-Aid mouth in a lot of these pictures that I'm looking at. Like, their lips are red.
Yeah. There's makeup slapped on them. And the teeth, everything about them. We already kind of get to some of our favorite parts, but that was my follow-up question is just, what is your favorite part of their design?
Oh, wow. I think in general, it is the big picture, all head, no filler, right? Of it's the head on legs, right? But I think my other favorite part is that would be pretty cool. Like, they'd be a whole different thing if they had like kind of like even something weird like tentacles or big strong arms. The fact that they have these kind of classic T-Rex, what are these even good for arms? Like, are the arms even strong enough to pick up any animal and get food to their mouth? Like, no. The little dangly, almost decorative arms is probably my favorite part.
That's great. I was. It might be. I mean, I want to say that the mouth, just the teeth, just everything about it. But there's something about that tail that just makes it is tadpole-like. As a kid, used to get tadpoles from the river when I was a kid. It really takes me back to those days. But it is so perfectly balanced. It's just the weirdest blob of a creature design. It's everything you're saying. It's a smushed up design. It's like a half thought, but that tail it's just perfectly balanced for me. And it's a cute tail. I like little cute doggy tails, little cat tails. It's a cute tail.
It is a cute tail, and it is clearly the like absolute masterstroke of the evolution of this animal, that it's got that massive but cute tail to balance the all head, no filler.
Yeah, because if it's just a little longer, it falls over.
Yep. Exactly.
Next part of discussion here. Unintelligent, hostile disposition, stoic. Hey, I'm stoic. Let's defend the Blurrgs against such slights, Joseph. What say you to these descriptions of the Blurrgs?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand, but I would also like in almost a real world, you got to be like, hey, remember, every dictionary does have the bias of the person who wrote it, even if they're trying to be factual, right?
Yeah.
Like, did the person who wrote this entry on the Blurrgs, did they witness a particularly upsetting mating session and the meal afterwards? Is that where this is coming from? Because I feel like with almost all these words, maybe unintelligent, put to the side, but hostile dispositions, stoic, like there are more positive ways to describe that, right? You could also just say, Blurrgs are really chill. They mind their own business and they're not bothered unless you bother them, right? There are nicer ways to say this.
Yeah. No, I think it's the unintelligent thing. All right. I get it. Not all the animals are the brightest in the bunch. I understand. And we've been talking about hapabores and Eopies, a lot of those kind of creatures. So maybe they're just simple, straightforward, animals that just want to munch. I get it. Those teeth you want to eat. I got it. Put that aside. But yeah, the hostile disposition, especially from what we've seen, like Mando's mean to him at first. They're on, Quill's territory, so they're protecting it, or, well, those aren't his. I get it. But I think it's right. And then it's the stoic thing. Well, then what? You can't have both. Are they just kind of stoic, quiet, keeping to themselves, and then you're bothering them? And that's a problem? Come on. I'm defending the Blurrg stoicism here.
Me too. There's something about, like, is stoic go with unintelligent and hostile? Like, maybe they just don't want to hang out with you today. Come on. Leave them alone.
Yeah, absolutely there. So this is the fun part of this. I mean, it's been fun discussion so far, but I really wanted to get to this one. Blurrgs are generally connected to Jem Syndulla and the Twi'leks, using them as mounts, as first seen in the Clone Wars back in 2009. That's where I remember first seeing them. But of course, that's not where I first saw them. They first appeared in 1985's Ewok movie, Ewoks: The Battle for Endor. So, Joseph, I remember it might have, I have to admit, sometimes, we like to, Star Wars fans think you know it all, right? Sometimes that's how you're judged. What's your trivia answer? I think I have to admit, it was in the discussion around Mando Season 1 that someone pointed out they were from the Ewok movie. I thought they were from the Clone Wars. I definitely saw those Ewok movies. I definitely sat down in my living room as a kid to see them. No memory of the Blurrgs growing up in the 80s, 90s, and beyond. So what about you? Do you have a memory of those Blurrgs from back in the day?
Very similar experience to what you just described. I watched both of those movies with great hope that there'd be maybe a lightsaber or two.
Yes.
Maybe a Wookiee, and I was a little disappointed. And I have zero memories of the Blurrg, which is weird because I'm sure it was one of the parts I liked, because I was watching it for, like, I want to see as much Star Wars weirdness, excitement as possible. And I think they were like kind of stop motion-y, right?
Yes.
And I liked that then. I like that now, and I liked it then. So I bet when I saw the Blurrgs, I was like, yeah, all right, But for some reason, I guess young me focused on the negative and not the positive. I should have clung to the Blurrgs. That's the life lesson, because I don't remember them from watching it back in the day.
Cling to those Blurrgs. Well, look, I remember Teak. I remember Wilford Brimley. I remember a lot of things. The Gorax. I remember a lot of things. I just don't remember the Blurrgs, but that's part of the fun. And, I love that they brought him back for both Clone Wars, and it made perfect sense for Mando. It just kind of worked. I loved everything about that there. And I think I love this part. We talk about unintelligent, hostile disposition, stoic. The fact that they're brave, stout creatures, I think, racing into battle. That's important,
I really liked them in the Clone Wars, and when they popped up in Rebels, I was like, oh yeah, and they got some great scenes, great high action scenes in Rebels too. So for me, I really did think of them as creatures from the very stylized animated world. So it was like this great, wonderful shock to see them live action in The Mandalorian, and really not that different,
Yeah,
it is funny how I tend to agree with the perspective how Filoni has said in interviews. Remember, everything in the animated show is stylized, so the Darksaber doesn't need to look exactly like that. Just like Christopher Lee's face doesn't look exactly like Count Dooku. And then you got the Blurrgs over here going, "No, we're pretty much exactly the same.
We're across the board. We're the same. We're the same." I love that. That's amazing. It's a great note here. And of course, the design goes even before and goes beyond 1985's Ewok movie there. The design of the Blurrgs was part of the concept art for The Empire Strikes Back. I didn't dig too much into that today. I didn't have time to put that in my notes, but I think, I could try, having these lead up to Tauntauns or something like that makes a lot of sense. But Joseph, I want to have fun with this idea. What if the Blurrgs just showed up at Empire as is? How would you see them factoring into that movie of the Star Wars galaxy at that time?
I want them to just suddenly be racing down the halls of Cloud City with no explanation.
You and I went to the same spot. Clearly, changing up Tauntauns or having them on Hoth totally makes sense. I would rather Yoda go, "To my hut we go, on my Blurrg we ride." And like, he has got a Blurrg there. Luke gets on. R2 has to find a trail. And that's where I'd want them. Dagobah.
Oh, yeah. No, they would make a lot of sense on Dagobah. And they would highlight that scene if they were just really, really slow. And Luke was like, oh,
yeah.
Man, so much faster beasts. Come on.
Tauntauns are so fast. Stoic they are. Is how I would see it.
Eat their mates, they do.
Their mates, they do. But I love Cloud City works for me as well, because imagine, like, we got Lando, who's, he's been in the puffer pig trade. We've got that. So getting in the Blurrg trade, I could see that. I could see it. Having a pen of Blurrgs,
Yeah, why not? Yeah. If they're puffer Blurrgs, that's the thing I want to know about.
Oh man, that's like when you get a dog, like, how did they mate these dogs? Well, what huh? It's like a German Chihuahua Shepherd. What are you talking about here? Yeah, I would love to see some weird Blurrg combinations there. We're having a lot of fun here. These Blurrgs are great. What is the magic of Blurrgs? What do they bring to the Star Wars saga, sir?
I think, to me, and for my aesthetic, they are the perfect Star Wars creature, because they are extremely relatable to real life. You can look at them and you can think of animals from as varied as a T-Rex to a Chihuahua. And I can see both of those things in this animal. The way they're described, like, they're kind of strong and silent and stoic. Like, they've even got, like, what are they, cows? Like,
yeah.
So they're very, very relatable to real life, but also extremely weird and alien, right? So they've got that going for them. And then sometimes I bang on about how I feel like Star Wars is sort of defined often by the contrast and tension. And one of the points of contrast and tension that I love in Star Wars is the absurd and profound at the same time. And the Blurrgs they're hilarious, right? Because of all of the physical descriptions, because they look like they, ran into a wall and accordioned like a cartoon into this, right? But then at the same time, especially with what we got in Mandalorian, they feel like a real sentient creature with a history and a perspective, to the point where you and I are getting mad at them being insulted by their Wookieepedia entry. So you got both sides of it, to me, of like, they're fun to joke about because they're so weird and bizarre looking, but at the same time, I'm like defensive about them because they have a history.
Yeah, no, I love what you're saying there, because they're wonderful in Clone Wars and Rebels, but coming in Mando, and such a powerful scene. It's early on in that Mando series where, Din's learning to ride, and the great speech from Quill, and there are they're so silly. There's very silly creatures. They're so Star Warsy. They're so wild. What if a mouth had legs? Like, like those in the 80s, they had those crazy, like baseball softballs, but they were like faces. They're like monster faces. I don't know. I had a bunch of those as a kid. It's those with legs, but they can be used for such profound moments. And that's what Star Wars is. It is serious, and it is somber at times. Look at what's going on with Andor, but a Blurrg could have been an Andor, and it would have been Dewey and Freedy would have absolutely loved hanging out with the Blurrg. And I think that's part of the magic. The lessons come from so many unlikely sources in Star Wars, and so it is with the Blurrgs.
Yeah, well said.
Well said indeed. No, that's just the Blurrgs inspiring me, because that's the magic they bring. We are going to take a quick break here on Databank Dive. On the other side, we're going to make it personal. That's right. We're going to get personal with the Blurrgs. So stick around for more Databank Dive. Welcome back to Databank Dive. I don't know why I'm sounding like a 1940s newsman. We're going to stick with it. I'm Ken Napzok. That's Joseph Scrimshaw. Across the virtual studio table here, we are diving into Blurrgs, these crazy, wonderful, silly, and profound and poignant creatures of Star Wars. These beasts of burden. I always hear Mick Jagger singing anytime I hear that phrase. I don't want to be your Blurrg of burden.
Walk for miles. My big feet are hurting. Never, never, never eat a mate again.
There you go. Perfect. We are Weird Al, the Star Wars podcast. Blurrgs play a big part in the journey and growth of Din Djarin on The Mandalorian, as we've been discussing. So, Joseph, you find yourself in a pen of Blurrgs. What lessons would a Blurrg teach you?
I think respect, to the way you phrase that. If I'm in a pen of Blurrgs, if they're stoic, if they're running on their own time, their own schedule, I respect that. I'm used to going to people's houses and having animals who need a moment to adjust, right? And I was taught very young, to no fingers, just offer your fist for animals to sniff. I think that's the first thing I do. And if it looked like they had a hungry mood, I would learn to run.
Yes.
If I could survive meeting the Blurrgs, I don't know. They seem like just a great lesson in patience, right? Which almost seems like a little bit what's going on with Din, right? Of like frustrated, angry, doesn't want to be doing this. Cares more about the end game than where he is now, what he's doing, and it's calming down, taking the time, bonding with this animal, so I think calm down, take your time. That's another big lesson. I think another one is, hey, when you're being treated poorly, it's okay to push back.
Oh yeah. That's from them. Yes. I love that.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing. Is like, oh yeah, well they can be violent. Yeah, shooting them with flames and stuff. Yeah, they might bite you. Yeah.
I love this. Yeah, no, that's first of all, we had a real world example of this last week where you had to swing by my house to pick something up, and I was like, I'd like you to meet Franny because I am holding her in my arms, but she will murder you and your fist. So a lot of stuff there. There's a lot for the lesson for me. If I guess I'm in Din's point of view is, I guess not judge a book by its cover because look at this silly creature, but also I might look at it with a lot of fear. That's a pretty big mouthful of very sharp teeth, and we've already discussed what happens during the mating process there. So I might approach them in a way that would lead with fear and add something to them that's not there. This hostile disposition. I don't want to put that hostility into them when it's not there. When maybe they want to work with me. Maybe they are stoic. Maybe they're like, hey, do you want to go in a battle? We'll take you there. Do you want to pull some carts? We'll pull for you. Just got to respect us. So I think that's the way there. And and I think you're very right. The other way around is the Blurrgs know who they are. Blurrgs, in their limited understanding of what they are, got their little tiny hands on it. They know who they are, and they're going to stand up for themselves. That's a valuable Star Wars lesson.
Right. Blurrgs aren't sitting there going, I wish I was a Ronto, right? Are Ronto's lives going better than mine? They're like, no, we're Blurrgs, and we're damn proud to be Blurrgs.
I wish it was a Ronto if it was a Shack. Yeah. We can go into more songs here that we shouldn't.
My God. Blurrgs and Shacks are the opposite. If you mated them, you'd get like a much more normal animal with a normal sized body.
If you mated Blurrgs and Shacks, you would just have this bow tie of bulbousness on all sides. The face and the butt. I would like to see some concept art from Force Center listeners of a Blurrg Shack, a Blur Shack,
a black.
Oh man, that is Anakin would definitely fall off that. That's
yeah.
All right. Trying to move on here. We've learned some valuable lessons from the Blurrgs. If we're at the Canto Bike Casino on Cantonica, and I will stress this, a humane, safe race, okay? A humane, safe race between a Blurrg, a Tauntaun, and a Cadu is held. What creature, Joseph, are you putting all your Republic credits on to win this race?
I want to say Blurrg, but I think I got to give it to the Cadu.
Maybe. Yeah, and I'll add 2 minutes and see if this changes your bet. Again, keeping with this safe, humane, no riders on this. This is a free-range race.
Yeah.
You going Cadu?
Yeah, because I think here's what I think happens. I think that even though the Blurrg is fast, the Tauntaun's fast, I think the Cadu is afraid of the Blurrg. I think the Cadu is running for its life
from the Blurrg.
I think the Tauntaun and the Blurrg are like, great, we're running, whatever, fine. I think the Cadu is, if I don't win this race, that is the end of me.
I love that idea. I didn't anticipate us playing out the race like it's an episode of Databank Brawl in a weird way, Databank Race. But I love this. I think the Cadu has a little fear in its heart. The Blurrg has a lot of hunger in its heart. And I've always thought Tauntauns, they do need, and there's been some great stuff in the Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view, the mother and everything, you really get into the heart and soul of Tauntaun. So I actually was moved by that story. But outside of that, I will say I've always been under the impression that Tauntauns maybe need a rider. Just maybe need a guide. And I just think the Tauntaun, the starting gun goes off and the Tauntaun's just milling about, grazing, kind of just doing its own thing. Whereas the Cadu, as you say, is now, I agree with you, in fear of its life, and the Blurrg's hungry. So maybe the Blurrg ends up with a snack and a win, or maybe the Cadu wins.
Yeah.
But I think I'd put my credits down on the Blurrg.
Okay, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely not the Tauntaun. There's just something about it that it feels like maybe if it was a marathon, maybe if it was like, can you pace yourself? Because the Tauntaun really does seem like they're just kind of like doop, ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop.
And they're clearly fast, and they travel, and I'm sure they've had to outrun a Wampa in her day, but there's just something about Tauntauns that I get the feeling of they're easily distracted and on their own time.
My other part of this, why I give it to Cadu, is I do think there's a possibility that the Blurrg might just sit down during the race.
Well, yeah, if the Blurrg's like, hey, I want to remind you that a part of my description is stoic, I don't need to win.
Exactly.
What is the win? It's a deep philosophical question. And the Cadu is just running around. But I would love to see this happen. I would love to see this race take place. Final question of the Making Personal section here, Joseph, before we give our ratings. This is important. What would you name your Blurrg?
I would name my Blurrg Bev. You got the alliteration, which is always nice, but it's a short, blunt name that's still kind of elegant, right?
Yes.
And I feel like I've met Bevs in real life who are maybe, they are in charge of, say, like a records office, right? And like, maybe Bev seems cranky, but you don't know everything that Bev has to put up with. And if you need something from Bev's records office, maybe you should ask with a lot of respect, and then you'll see a different side of Bev.
You don't want to see a different side of Bev. That's great. That's great. I was going to go more direct, more pet-like, though I'm sure there's a dog out there named Bev. I was going to go with Munchie. Just straight up Munchie, because that's the vibe you get from the Blurrgs. But
yeah,
I would love to see you and I riding Bev and Munchie into not battle, but just a bar crawl through the Star Wars galaxy.
The Blurrg bar crawl would be beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Oh, we've had a lot of fun with the Blurrgs, but as always, we're going to rate the wild, weird, wondrous factor of Blurrgs. Our rating is based on the original Star Wars weirdo Lobot. So out of 10 Lobot heads, 1 being the least, 10 being the most. Joseph, how many Lobot heads do you give the Blurrgs?
Well, I'm going to give literally 10 Lobot heads to Blurrgs because I think that's how many they would eat if they were hungry. But also it is just straight up 10 out of 10. They are, to me, just like I said, they're so absurd, but there's still got like some depth and some character to them. They're tip of the iceberg. Star Wars, you look at them and you want to know more. How? Why?
Yes.
How fast can I run away from them? Can I make it? No. And then once you figure out the mating almost breaks the scale, almost brings it to 11. But I'm giving them 10 out of 10 Lobot heads.
You know what? You convinced me. I'm going to be brave and bold. I'm going to ride in about it with you. I'll go 10 out of 10 as well. They hit all categories. They're wild. Sometimes in some cases, literally wild. They're definitely weird and just wondrous. And I give a lot of that credit to Quill and the Mandalorian show. Cham and the Freedom Fighters of Ryloth did a lot for the Blurrgs, Ewoks as well. Let's not forget them. But there's just something. I just love that scene. I love that scene so much early on in Mandalorian. Just really set the tone for me personally, what's coming to the show. And so that's the wondrous side there. But then you look at those little hands, the mouth, that tail. It's some of the weirdest things in Star Wars. So 10 out of 10. 10 from you, 10 from me. Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah. Weird, wild, wondrous, and sometimes even wobbly. They got a 4th W.
They got a 4th W indeed. I did want to highlight this, though, in the forthcoming week here on January 24th. It is the birthday of the late John Hollis, who played Lobot in Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
So just noticed that. I was looking through the records this week of StarWars.com's app. And so 1931, January 24th, John Hollis was born. We love Lobot. We love our weird Lobot ratings. So happy birthday to the late, great John Hollis.
Agreed.
All right. There you go, my friends. That's it. We've done it. It's another episode of Databank Dive. Thank you so much. If you are finding us relatively for the first time, there's a lot of other things we do, and we sometimes go very deep into Star Wars, but other times we love writing Blurrgs around the galaxy. You can find links to all Force Center things on our Twitter page at Force Center Pod. There's link trees that'll get you to where you need to go, including our Patreon page. For me, you can follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website, kennapzok.com. You can get links to things like my show, Pop Rockin' Radio, Blathering, Saturday Night Napzok, Casterly Talk, and all the other things I do. Joseph, where can they find and follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can check out my YouTube page. Just search for Joseph Scrimshaw. And if you want to find me other times, I'll just be sitting in my apartment thinking about Blurrgs.
Thinking about Blurrgs indeed. Bev and Munchie making their way to the Star Wars galaxy. That's it. Thanks for listening to Databank Dive.